The ice cracked under the drill with a sound like thunder. Deep beneath the frozen surface of Kepler 442b, the mining crew had found something that should not exist. They called Dr. G1 immediately. G1 stood at the edge of the excavation site, her breath forming white clouds in the freezing air. Below her, buried under 3 kilometers of ancient ice, something glowed with a soft blue light. The miners had cleared away enough ice to reveal a structure made of crystal, perfectly preserved, impossibly old. How old? Asked Captain Tae Yang, standing beside her. He was the head of colony security, a practical man who did not like mysteries. The ice around it is 50,000 years old, Ji-won said quietly. Her hands shook, but not from the cold. Maybe older. Inside the crystal structure they found it, an egg. It was huge, nearly 2 meters tall, covered in scales that seemed to shift colors in the light. Some scales looked black, others looked purple, and still others seemed to contain entire galaxies of color. Ji-won had studied alien biology for 15 years. She had never seen anything like this. We need to report this, Tae Yang said. The Galactic Council will want to know. Ji-won nodded, but something bothered her. The egg was not dead. Her scanner showed a faint heartbeat inside, so slow it only beat once per hour. Something alive had been frozen here for 50,000 years, waiting. The Galactic Council responded within 2 days. They sent ships and soldiers and a very angry ambassador named Vecthara. She was from an insect species, tall and covered in green armor-like skin. Her voice buzzed when she spoke. This egg is council property, Vecthara announced. Ancient law states that all precursor artifacts belong to the council. You will surrender it immediately. We found it on a human colony, Ji-won argued. We have the right to study it. Vecthara's eyes, all 6 of them, focused on Ji-won. You do not understand what you have found, human. This is not a simple fossil. This is a weapon from a war that ended before your species learned to make fire. It is dangerous. Then why is it still alive? Ji-won asked. The ambassador did not answer. Instead, she gave Ji-won and the colony 3 days to prepare the egg for transport. After that, council soldiers would take it by force if necessary. That night, Ji-won could not sleep. She kept thinking about the egg, about the slow heartbeat inside it. Her assistant, Hye-jin, found her in the laboratory at 3 in the morning running scans. You are going to let them take it, right? Hye-jin asked. She was young, fresh from university, still idealistic. I do not know, Ji-won admitted. Something is wrong. The council is too worried about this. They know something they are not telling us, like what? Ji-won pulled up her research on her screen. I have been reading old records, very old records. Before humans joined the Galactic Council, before we had faster-than-light travel, we had myths. Stories about dragons, giant reptiles that could fly and breathe fire and were wise beyond measure. Those are just stories, Hye-jin said. Maybe. Ji-won zoomed in on an image of the egg scales. But what if they were not? What if dragons were real and they came from somewhere else? What if this is a dragon egg? Hye-jin stared at the egg through the laboratory window. That is crazy. I know. Ji-won smiled tiredly. But so is finding a living egg that is 50,000 years old. Captain Tae Yang found them an hour later. He closed the laboratory door and locked it. I heard you asking questions about precursor history, he said to Ji-won. Stop. The council does not like questions about precursors. Why not? Because the precursors built the technology the council uses. Faster-than-light travel, energy shields, medical nanobots. All precursor technology. The council found it after the precursors disappeared and claimed they invented it themselves. The council is lying? Hye-jin asked. The council controls information, Tae Yang said carefully. They decide what history is true. And they really do not want anyone asking about precursors. Ji-won stood up. I am going to hatch it. What? Both Tae Yang and Hye-jin spoke at the same time. The egg. I am going to try to wake it up. Ji-won's voice was steady now, certain. Whatever's inside it is not a weapon. Weapons do not sleep. This is something alive, something that was hidden here on purpose. Maybe it has answers. The council will arrest you, Tae Yang warned. They might arrest all of us. I know. Ji-won looked at him. You do not have to help me. You can report me right now. It would be the safe thing to do. Tae Yang was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed. How long do you need? 2 days. Maybe 3. I can give you 2 days before the council transport arrives. After that, I cannot stop them. For the next 48 hours, Ji-won barely slept. She carefully raised the temperature around the egg degree by degree. She bathed it in specific wavelengths of radiation. She played sounds at frequencies her research suggested might penetrate the shell. Hee-jin helped, monitoring vital signs that grew stronger each hour. The heartbeat inside the egg began to speed up. Once per hour became once per minute. The scales began to glow brighter. Ji-won could feel heat radiating from the shell. On the second morning, Ambassador Vekthara arrived at the laboratory with soldiers. Taeyang blocked the door. "You are out of time," Vekthara said. "Step aside, Captain." "The doctor needs 1 more hour," Taeyang said calmly. "I am not asking." Vekthara raised one clawed hand, and her soldiers raised weapons. Then the egg cracked. The sound was like glass breaking and bells ringing at the same time. Everyone froze. A line of golden light appeared on the egg's surface, then another, then dozens more. The light grew brighter and brighter until everyone had to look away. When the light faded, the egg lay in pieces on the laboratory floor. Standing among the broken shells was a creature from legend. It was small, about the size of a large dog, but perfect. Its body was covered in black scales that reflected rainbow colors. It had 4 legs, 2 wings folded against its back, and a long tail. Its eyes were the most shocking thing. They were deep gold and they were intelligent. Very intelligent. The creature looked at each person in the room. When its eyes met Ji-won's, she felt something touch her mind. Not words exactly, but feelings, curiosity, gratitude, recognition. "Impossible," Vekthara whispered. Her voice actually shook. "They are all supposed to be dead. We made sure they were all dead." The creature turned to look at the ambassador. It made a sound, something between a purr and a growl. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "What do you mean, dead?" Ji-won demanded. "What is it?" "A dragon," Vekthara said. "The last companion of the precursor race. We have to kill it, now." The soldiers raised their weapons. Taeyang pulled out his own gun. Hee-jin screamed. The dragon moved faster than anything that size should move. It leaped in front of Ji-won, wings spread wide, and roared. The sound shook the walls. The soldiers' weapons sparked and died. The lights in the laboratory went out. In the darkness, Ji-won felt the dragon press against her side. In her mind, she heard something that might have been a voice or might have been a feeling. Safe. Together. Run. When the emergency lights came on, Ji-won made her choice. "Hee-jin, Taeyang, we are leaving now." "Where?" Taeyang asked. "Anywhere but here." Ji-won looked down at the dragon beside her, at the ancient intelligence in its golden eyes. "We have just started a revolution and the whole galaxy is going to come after us." The dragon made that purring sound again. In Ji-won's mind, she felt its agreement. They ran. The dragon grew fast. Too fast. 3 days after hatching, it was the size of a small car. Ji-won, Taeyang, and Hee-jin had locked themselves in an old storage facility at the edge of the colony. The dragon lay curled in the center of the room, its scales shimmering in the dim light. "What do we feed it?" Hee-jin asked nervously. "Energy," Ji-won said. She had her scanner pointed at the creature. "It does not eat food like we do. It absorbs radiation, heat, light, any kind of energy." "That is impossible," Hee-jin said. "Everything about this is impossible." Ji-won moved closer to the dragon. It opened one golden eye and looked at her. Again she felt that touch in her mind. Warmth, trust, safety. "What should we call it?" Taeyang asked from his position by the door. He had weapons ready in case council soldiers found them. Ji-won smiled. "Ryung, it means dragon in Old Korean." The dragon's eye brightened and Ji-won felt approval flow through her mind. Ryung. Yes. Outside, the colony was in chaos. Ambassador Vekthara had declared a state of emergency. Council soldiers searched every building. Ships orbited overhead, scanning for the dragon. "The entire colony was on lockdown. We cannot stay here," Taeyang said. "They will find us eventually." "I know." Ji-won sat down next to Ryung. "But where can we go? The council controls every planet, every station. There is nowhere to hide." That was when Ryung showed her the first vision. It hit Ji-won like a wave. Suddenly, she was not in the storage facility anymore. She was standing in space looking at a galaxy filled with light. Millions of stars, billions of worlds, all connected by streams of glowing energy. And moving through this galaxy were dragons. Hundreds of them, thousands. Each one bonded to a being of light. The precursors. This was the precursor civilization at its height. Ji-won watched cities that floated between stars. She saw ships that were grown instead of built. She watched the precursors and their dragon companions heal dying stars and guide young species toward wisdom. This was not an empire built on conquest. It was a partnership built on knowledge and care. Then the vision changed. War came. Ships of a design Ji-Wan recognized from council vessels attacked precursor worlds. The dragons and their companions fought back, but they were overwhelmed by numbers. One by one, the lights went out. The precursors fell. The dragons died. But before the end, the precursors hid eggs across the galaxy. They put their knowledge and memories into the eggs, trusting that someday someone would find them and wake them. Someday the truth would be known. Ji-Wan gasped and fell backward. He-Jin caught her. What happened? He-Jin asked. You just stared at nothing for 5 minutes. Ryung showed me the past. Ji-Wan's voice shook. The council did not find precursor technology. They stole it. They killed the precursors and took everything, then lied about it for 50,000 years. Taeyang's face went dark. That would mean the council's entire civilization is built on genocide and theft. Yes, Ji-Wan said. And they will do anything to keep that secret. A explosion rocked the building. Taeyang checked his scanner. Council troops. They found us. We have maybe 5 minutes, Ryung stood up, now filling most of the room. The dragon looked at Ji-Wan and projected a feeling. Trust me. It wants us to get on its back, Ji-Wan said. It can fly? He-Jin asked. In space? I do not know, but we do not have a choice. Ji-Wan climbed onto Ryung's back between the wings. Taeyang and He-Jin followed. The dragon crashed through the roof of the storage facility just as council soldiers burst through the door. Ryung's wings spread wide, each one glowing with inner light. The dragon did not flap them. Instead, it seemed to push against gravity itself, rising higher and higher above the colony. Impossible. Taeyang breathed. That is not how physics works. Tell that to the dragon, Ji-Wan said, holding tight to Ryung's scales. Ships moved to intercept them. Ryung roared and a wave of force rippled out from the dragon's body. The ship's engines died. They fell back, powerless. It can disable technology, He-Jin said in wonder. How? Precursor knowledge, Ji-Wan said. She could feel it now. A vast library of information sleeping in Ryung's mind. 50,000 years of accumulated wisdom, waiting to be shared. They flew higher, breaking through the atmosphere. In space, Ryung did something impossible. A bubble of light formed around them, creating air and warmth. The dragon flew between the council ships, too fast for weapons to track, and jumped into faster-than-light travel without a ship or engine. When they dropped back into normal space, they were light years away from the colony. Floating in front of them was a battered cargo ship. What is that? Taeyang asked. Our ride, Ji-Wan said. Though she did not know how she knew, Ryung was sharing information directly into her mind now. The captain is named Kyung-Soo. He smuggles goods past council patrols. Ryung says we can trust him. How does Ryung know that? He-Jin asked. I do not understand it all yet, Ji-Wan admitted. But Ryung can sense things, intentions, emotions. This captain wants to help us. The cargo ship's airlock opened. Ryung flew inside and the door closed behind them. The bubble of air around them faded as the ship's own atmosphere took over. A man was waiting in the cargo bay. Kyung-Soo was middle-aged with gray in his hair and scars on his hands. Next to him stood a woman with mechanical implants covering half her face. This was Da-eun, the ship's engineer. Holy hell, Kyung-Soo said, staring at Ryung. That is actually a dragon. I thought the message was a joke. Message? Ji-Wan asked, sliding down from Ryung's back. We got a transmission an hour ago, Da-eun said. Her voice had a mechanical edge from the implants. It was not in any language we recognized, but somehow we understood it. It said 3 humans and a dragon needed rescue, and it gave us your exact location. Ji-Wan looked at Ryung. You sent them a message? The dragon rumbled softly. Yes. Can we skip the impossible parts for now? Kyung-Soo said. Because there are about 50 council warships looking for you, and I would really like to not die today. Why are you helping us? Taeyang asked, his hand near his weapon. What do you get out of this? Taeyang smiled, and it was not a nice smile. The council killed my family when I was young. They said we were rebels. We were just people who asked too many questions. She gestured at her implants. They did this to me in a council prison. So when I got a chance to help someone the council wants dead, I jumped at it. Where can you take us? Ji-Wan asked. There is a place, Kyung-Soo said. Far from council space. The dead zone's near the galactic core. No one goes there because the radiation kills any ship that tries. But maybe your dragon can protect us. Ji-won felt Ryung's agreement in her mind. Yes, Ryung can get us there. Good. Kyung-soo headed toward the bridge. Because we need to leave now. Like right now. Actually, 5 minutes ago would have been better. The ship jumped into faster-than-light travel just as council ships arrived. They chased Kyung-soo's vessel across 3 star systems. But Da-eun was a brilliant pilot. She led them through asteroid fields and past dying stars, places no sane captain would risk a ship. Finally, they reached the edge of the dead zones. Space itself looked wrong here. Stars flickered and went out. The laws of physics seemed to bend. Council ships stopped at the border, refusing to go further. This is suicide, Da-eun said quietly. The radiation in there will tear the ship apart in minutes. Ryung stood and walked to the front of the ship. The dragon pressed one clawed foot against the window. A sphere of golden light expanded from Ryung's body, surrounding the entire vessel. Safe, Ryung told them all. They could all hear it now, feel it in their minds. Trust me, the ship entered the dead zone. The radiation was worse than any scanner could measure. Reality itself seemed to break down. But inside Ryung's protective field, they were untouched. Hours later, they found what Ryung had known was there all along. A precursor facility, hidden in the heart of the dead zone, a station the size of a small moon, still powered after 50,000 years. What is this place? Hye-jin whispered. A library, Ji-won said, understanding flowing from Ryung into her mind. The precursors knew they were losing the war. They hid their knowledge here, hoping someone would find it. They hid the truth. They docked with the station. Inside, they found data storage beyond human technology. Holographic records of the entire precursor civilization, evidence of the Council's war crimes, proof of the genocide, and most importantly, they found a map. Dozens of other dragon eggs were hidden across the galaxy. Each one contained the same knowledge, the same memories. Each one waited to be awakened. If we wake them all, Tai-yang said slowly, it would change everything. The Council could not hide the truth anymore. They would kill us first, Hye-jin said. They would kill everyone. Start a war that would burn the galaxy. Ji-won stood in the center of the ancient library, Ryung by her side, and felt the weight of the choice before her. Wake the dragons and risk galactic war, or destroy the evidence and let the lies continue. She looked at Ryung. The dragon looked back with those ancient, wise eyes. Choose, Ryung seemed to say. Choose truth or choose safety. But choose. Ji-won took a deep breath. We wake the dragons. All of them. Whatever happens next, at least it will be honest. The revolution had truly begun. News of the dragon spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Some called it a weapon. Others called it a miracle. The Council called it a crime against galactic law and declared Ji-won, Tae-yang, and Hye-jin enemies of civilized space. Bounties were placed on their heads. Council ships hunted them across 100 star systems. But something unexpected happened. People started asking questions. If the dragon is so dangerous, why is the Council so afraid of it? Asked broadcasts on human worlds. What are they hiding? The Council responded by tightening control of information. They shut down news networks. They arrested people who asked too many questions, but that only made more people suspicious. In the precursor station, Ji-won and her team worked desperately to decode the ancient records. Ryung had grown again. The dragon was now the size of a small spacecraft, too large to fit inside most of the station's corridors. It stayed in the main hangar, its presence a constant comfort to Ji-won. Da-eun had proven to be more than just a pilot and engineer. She had contacts throughout the galaxy's underworld. Smugglers, rebels, criminals who hated the Council for various reasons. She used these contacts to spread information about what they had found. We are making them nervous, Da-eun said one evening, looking at intercepted Council communications. They are moving military assets toward human space. I think they are planning something big. An attack? Tae-yang asked. He had spent weeks turning the precursor station into a fortress, installing weapons and shields that Ryung helped them understand. Maybe worse than that, Da-eun said quietly. There are rumors they might declare humanity a rogue species, cut Earth off from the rest of the galaxy, maybe even destroy human colonies as an example. Hye-jin looked up from her work. They would not. There are billions of humans now. Other species would not allow genocide. They allowed it 50,000 years ago, Ji-won said grimly. She had spent days reviewing precursor records. The precursors and their dragons tried to stop the Council's ancestors from becoming tyrants, so the Council killed them all and rewrote history. What is billions more deaths to them? Ryung made a low, rumbling sound. Through their mental connection, Ji-won felt the dragon's anger. Not just anger at the Council, but anger at injustice itself. The precursors had raised their dragons to value life and truth above all else. Seeing those values betrayed hurt Ryung deeply. We need allies, Taeyang said. We cannot fight the entire council alone. There is someone, Kyung-soo said. He had been quiet until now. Someone I have heard about in my travels. They call her Empress Haiwan. She leads a separatist faction of humans who want to break away from council control. They have their own ships, their own worlds. If anyone would help us, it would be them. Where are they? Ji-won asked. That is the problem. No one knows exactly. They hide in places even the council cannot find. But I know someone who might know someone. Kyung-soo smiled. Give me a few days. Those few days turned into 2 weeks. During that time, Ji-won made a discovery that changed everything. Deep in the precursor records, she found technical specifications for something called a resonance beacon. It was a device that could broadcast thoughts and feelings across the entire galaxy instantly. If we build this, Ji-won explained to the others, we could share what we know with everyone at once. Not just words or pictures, but actual understanding. People would feel what the precursors felt. They would know the truth. The council would know where we are the instant we activate it, Taeyang warned. Yes, Ji-won agreed. But by then it would be too late. The truth would be out. They started building the resonance beacon. Ryung helped, using abilities that still amazed Ji-won. The dragon could manipulate matter at a molecular level, shaping metal and crystal with just a thought. What should have taken months took only weeks. Meanwhile, Kyung-soo made contact. Empress Haiwan agreed to meet them at a neutral location, an abandoned mining station 3 jumps from the dead zone. But she warned that council spies were everywhere. They would have to be careful. The meeting was tense. Empress Haiwan arrived with a small fleet of ships, weapons ready. She was an older woman, gray-haired and sharp-eyed, wearing the uniform of a military commander. Behind her stood soldiers loyal to the separatist cause. "Show me the dragon," she said without preamble. Ryung emerged from the cargo hold of Kyung-soo's ship. In the vacuum of space, the dragon glowed like a small star. Its wings stretched wide, each scale reflecting light in impossible ways. Haiwan stared for a long moment. Then she smiled. I did not really believe it until now. A dragon. An actual dragon. Will you help us? Ji-won asked. Help you what? Run from the council forever? Die heroically when they finally catch you? Haiwan shook her head. No. But I will help you win. She explained her plan. The separatist faction had been preparing for years to break away from council control. They had ships, weapons, and thousands of soldiers. What they lacked was a reason that would unite all humanity. Something that would make even loyal council members question their allegiance. Give me proof, Haiwan said. Real proof of council crimes, something undeniable. Then I can start a revolution that will actually succeed. Ji-won shared the precursor records. She let Haiwan see the evidence of genocide, of stolen technology, of 50,000 years of lies. Through Ryung, she let Haiwan feel what the precursors had felt in their final moments. When it was over, Haiwan had tears in her eyes. The council will burn for this. No, Ji-won said firmly. That is what the council did. We will not become them. We will expose them, remove them from power, but we will not become murderers. Haiwan studied Ji-won for a long moment. You are either very wise or very naive. I am not sure which. Maybe both, Ji-won admitted. But it is the only way forward that Ryung and I can live with. They formed an alliance. High-One separatists would provide military protection and spread the information through human space. Jiwan's team would finish the resonance beacon and locate the other dragon eggs. Together, they would force the council to face justice. But first, they needed to test if the plan was even possible. Could they really awaken another dragon egg safely? Ryung provided coordinates to the nearest egg. It was hidden on a frozen moon orbiting a gas giant in an uninhabited system. Hye-Wan sent a team of volunteers with Jiwan and Hyejin to attempt the awakening. The egg was smaller than Ryung's had been, buried under only a kilometer of ice instead of 3. Jiwan used the same methods she had used before: controlled heat, specific radiation, patience. This time, she had Ryung's help. The dragon stood over the egg, sharing warmth and energy, calling to its sleeping sibling. The egg hatched after 3 days. What emerged was different from Ryung. This dragon was silver and white instead of black and rainbow. It was female where Ryung was male, and it was afraid. The new dragon, barely the size of a large dog, cowered at the back of the excavation. It looked at all the humans with fear in its bright blue eyes. It does not remember as much as Ryung did, Jiwan realized. Some of the eggs must have been damaged over time. It does not know what it is or who we are. One of Hye-Wan's soldiers, a young woman named Bo-Ra, stepped forward slowly. She knelt down and held out her hand. She did not speak, just waited patiently. The silver dragon watched her for a long time. Then slowly it crept forward and touched its nose to Bo-Ra's hand. Light flashed. Bo-Ra gasped. When the light faded, she and the dragon were staring at each other with the same expression of wonder. "I can hear her," Bo-Ra whispered. "In my mind. Her name is... She wants to be called Song, it means pine tree." Ryung made a pleased sound. Jiwan felt joy through their connection. Ryung was not alone anymore. There were others awakening. They returned to the precursor station with Song and Bo-Ra. The 2 dragons circled each other cautiously at first, then touched foreheads in a gesture that seemed ancient and important. Through Ryung, Jiwan felt a sense of hope. If 2 dragons could wake successfully, then maybe all of them could. But time was running out. Dayun intercepted a council transmission that made everyone's blood run cold. The council had authorized something called Final Protocol. No one knew exactly what it meant, but the transmission specifically mentioned Earth. "They are going to attack the homeworld," Tae-Yang said, reading the decoded message. "They want to hurt humanity so badly that we give up Ryung and destroy all evidence of the precursor records. We need to warn Earth," Hyejin said. "Earth will not listen," Hye-Wan said bitterly. "The government there is still loyal to the council. They will probably help with the attack if ordered to." Jiwan looked at Ryung and Song, at the 2 dragons who represented hope for a different future. She thought about all the other eggs waiting to be found. She thought about billions of humans who had no idea what was coming. "We finished the resonance beacon," Jiwan said. "We broadcast everything we know to the entire galaxy. And then we find every single dragon egg and wake them all. If the council wants a war, we will give them one. But we will fight with truth, not weapons." "That is insane," Kyung-Soo said. "Yes," Jiwan agreed. "But what choice do we have?" They worked day and night for 2 weeks. The resonance beacon was nearly complete. Hye-Wan separatists were ready to move. Teams were assembling to locate more eggs. Then the council fleet arrived at the dead zone. 300 ships, the largest military force ever assembled. They could not enter the dead zone themselves, but they did not need to. They surrounded it completely, cutting off all escape routes. Ambassador Vekthara's voice came through on all frequencies. "Dr. Jiwan, Captain Tae-Yang, Hyejin, you have 1 day to surrender yourselves and the dragons. If you do not, we will begin destroying human colonies. 1 every hour until you comply. Your choice." In the hangar, Ryung and Song stood together, their scales glowing with inner light. Through their connection, Jiwan felt their determination. "No more running," Ryung told her. "No more hiding. Time to show the galaxy what dragons really are." Jiwan activated the resonance beacon. "Then let us show them." The resonance beacon activated with a pulse of light that spread across the galaxy at impossible speed. Every sapient being in known space felt it. Not words, not pictures, but pure understanding. They felt what the precursors had felt: the joy of discovery, the peace of cooperation between species, the horror of betrayal, the pain of genocide. In one instant, 50,000 years of hidden history was laid bare for all to see. On Earth, people stopped in the streets as the truth washed over them. In council chambers on 100 worlds, politicians felt the lies they had been telling dissolve like smoke. Soldiers on council warships stared at their commanders in shock, finally understanding what they served. And across the galaxy, scattered, unforgotten worlds and hidden in asteroid belts and buried under ancient ice, dragon eggs began to wake. Ji-Won collapsed after the beacon fired. The effort of channeling so much information through Ryung's connection had nearly killed her. Hyejin caught her before she hit the ground. "Is it done?" Ji-Won asked weakly. "It is done," Hyejin said, tears streaming down her face. "Everyone knows. The whole galaxy knows." Outside the precursor station, the council fleet hung in space, motionless. Through her connection with Ryung, Ji-Won could feel the confusion and anger radiating from 300 ships. Some crews were mutinying, others were withdrawing. Ambassador Vecthara was screaming orders that no one followed. But the danger was not over. A core group of council loyalists, those who benefited most from the old system, decided to strike while they could. 50 ships broke formation and charged toward the dead zone, willing to die if it meant destroying the dragons. Ryung and Song moved to intercept. The two dragons left the station and flew into the deadly radiation of the dead zone. Their bodies glowed brighter and brighter as they absorbed the hostile energy that should have killed them instantly. Then they released it. Twin beams of pure energy lanced out from the dragons, not at the council ships but at the dead zone itself. The radiation that made this area of space impassable began to clear. The twisted physics that killed any normal ship started to normalize. In minutes, Ryung and Song were healing space itself, using power they had absorbed to repair the damage of 50,000 years. "How are they doing that?" Da-Un breathed, watching from the station. "Precursor knowledge," Ji-Won said, pulling herself to her feet. Through Ryung, she understood. The dead zones were created during the war, weapons that broke reality itself. The dragons know how to fix them. The council ships that had charged forward stopped, their crews staring in disbelief as a path cleared before them. But they did not attack. How could they attack beings who had just done something impossible to protect everyone? Ambassador Vecthara was not so easily swayed. Her ship fired anyway. Energy weapons meant to destroy planets lanced toward Ryung and Song. The dragons did not dodge, they did not flee. Song spread her silver wings wide and absorbed the energy. The weapons that should have killed her only made her glow brighter. She roared, and the council ship's systems went dead. Vecthara's voice came through the communication system, ragged with fury. "You should not exist. We killed you all," Ryung responded. The dragon's voice echoed not just through communication systems, but through the mental connection the resonance beacon had created. Every sapient being in the galaxy heard Ryung speak for the first time. "You killed our companions. You stole our legacy, but you could not kill hope. We return not for revenge, but for restoration. Choose wisely what comes next." Across the galaxy, more dragons were hatching. Ji-Won felt each one through Ryung. 14 eggs cracked open in the first hour, then 20 more, then 40. Humans found some. Other species found others. Each dragon bonded with someone who had a good heart, someone who valued truth and justice. A young human named Professor Min Seok, an elderly scientist who had spent his life looking for evidence of precursors, found an egg on Mars. The dragon that hatched was gold and bonded with him instantly. Through their connection, Min Seok suddenly understood technology he had only dreamed of. On a colony world, a human soldier named Commander Junho found an egg during a patrol. The dragon that emerged was red and fierce. It bonded with Junho and showed him tactics and strategies from the ancient war, knowledge of how to fight without cruelty. More and more humans found eggs. More and more dragons woke. Each partnership created a pair that was greater than the sum of its parts. Human creativity and dragon wisdom combined in ways that shocked both species. The council responded with the only tool they understood: war. They declared all dragons illegal weapons. They ordered all bonded humans arrested or killed. They sent armies to destroy any egg that was found. What followed was the bloodiest conflict in galactic history. Human colonies burned. Council worlds revolted. Species that had been oppressed for millennia rose up against their rulers. The galaxy tore itself apart. But the humans and dragons were winning. Professor Minseok, working with his gold dragon, developed a way to translate dragon knowledge into technology humans could build. Overnight, human ships gained shields that no weapon could penetrate. Human colonies gained healing centers that could cure any disease. The technological gap between humans and the Council collapsed in weeks. Commander Junho formed the first Dragon Rider military unit, human pilots who flew alongside their bonded dragons, their minds linked in perfect harmony. They could anticipate each other's moves, react faster than any computer, and fight with a precision that terrified Council forces. But Ji-won and Ryung focused on something more important than battles. They went to Council worlds and showed people the truth, not through weapons or threats, but through the mental connection Ryung could create. They let people feel what the precursors had felt. They let people see the evidence with their own eyes. One by one, Council species began to defect. First individuals, then groups, then entire worlds. They looked at what their ancestors had done and felt shame. They looked at what the humans and dragons offered and felt hope. Empress Haewon took command of the human military forces. She was ruthless but fair, accepting the surrender of Council ships rather than destroying them. She offered mercy to those who laid down weapons. She recruited alien species who wanted to join the fight for truth. Within 6 months, the Council held only a fraction of the space they once controlled. But they still had their core worlds, their most advanced weapons, and their most fanatical followers. And they had one more weapon, something they had kept hidden for 50,000 years. It was Counselor Nira, a reformist member who had defected to help the humans, who warned them. The Council has a precursor weapon, a device that can collapse stars. They have kept it secret all this time, but they are desperate now. They will use it. Where will they use it? Taeyang asked. Earth, Nira said grimly. They want to send a message. If they cannot control humanity, they will eliminate it. Ji-won felt ice in her veins. Earth, the homeworld. Billions of people who were not soldiers, who had not chosen this fight. We have to stop them, Hyejin said. How? Da-un asked. We do not even know where the weapon is. Ryung knew. Through the mental network that now connected all awakened dragons, Ryung reached out to his siblings and searched Council space. One dragon found it, a massive station in the Council's core territory, heavily guarded. There are at least 100 warships protecting it, Taeyang reported after reviewing the intelligence. And it is fully powered. They could fire it at any moment. Then we go now, Ji-won said. All of us. What followed was the most daring raid in the war. 50 human ships led by Kyung-soo and Da-un, 100 dragon riders led by Commander Junho, and at the center of it all, Ji-won and Ryung, Song and Bo-ra, Professor Min-seok and his gold dragon. They jumped into Council space and struck like lightning. The dragon riders engaged the warships while the human vessels pushed toward the weapon station. Council forces fought back with everything they had. Ships exploded. Dragons and their riders fell. The space around the weapon station became a graveyard of metal and fire. But the humans and dragons kept pushing forward. They had learned to fight together, to trust each other completely. Where Council forces fought as individuals following orders, humans and dragons fought as bonded pairs working toward a common goal. Ji-won and Ryung reached the weapon station first. They crashed through the outer hull and flew deep into the station's core. Inside, they found Ambassador Vecthara standing at the weapon controls. You are too late, Vecthara said. Her hands moved over the controls. The weapon is already charged. Earth's sun will collapse in 5 minutes. Your species ends today. No, Ji-won said. It does not. Ryung roared. The sound was not just noise, but pure will, pure determination. The dragon's body flared with light. Every other dragon in the system felt it and added their own power. The mental connection between dragons, which had been growing stronger every day, became a network of incredible force. Together, all the dragons reached out to the precursor weapon. They understood it in a way no council scientist ever could. It was not meant to destroy. The precursors never built weapons. This device was meant to regulate stars, to keep them healthy and stable. The council had corrupted it, twisted it to kill, but that was not what it was made for. The dragons changed it back. Instead of collapsing Earth's sun, the weapon healed it. The star became more stable than it had been in millennia, and the feedback from redirecting so much energy overloaded the weapon station. "Evacuate now!" Taeyang shouted over the communication system. Human ships and dragons fled as the station began to explode. Vecthara stood at the controls, watching everything she believed in crumble around her. She could have fled. Instead, she stayed, going down with the weapon that represented her civilization's darkest secret. The explosion lit up the sky like a new star. When it faded, the Council's last great weapon was gone. The war was not over, but it was decided. Species across the galaxy saw what had happened and made their choice. They chose truth over lies. They chose partnership over domination. The dragons had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. The war ended not with a final battle, but with a choice. After the destruction of the star-collapsing weapon, Council forces lost their will to fight. Ship after ship surrendered. Worlds that had supported the Council declared independence. The vast empire that had ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years collapsed in weeks. But Ji-won knew that winning a war was easier than building a peace. She stood on a platform orbiting Earth, looking down at the blue and green world below. Beside her stood Ryung, now massive enough to carry hundreds of people on his back. The dragon's scales reflected the light of the sun they had saved, creating rainbows that danced across the platform. "What happens now?" Hye-jin asked. She had been offered a position as a professor at a dozen universities, all of them wanting to study dragon-human bonding. She had accepted none of them, choosing instead to stay with Ji-won. "Now we build something better," Ji-won said, "something that actually works." The Covenant of Free Worlds was born in a station above Earth. Representatives from 300 species gathered to discuss a new form of government. Not an empire, not a council that ruled by hidden lies. Something different. It was chaos at first. Some species wanted humans to lead because they had freed everyone. Others wanted no single species in charge. Some wanted democracy. Others wanted rule by the wisest. The arguments went on for weeks. Ryung and the other dragons helped by doing something simple. They created a mental connection between all the representatives, letting each species feel what the others felt: fear, hope, pain, joy. When you could feel someone else's emotions, it was harder to see them as an enemy. Slowly, painfully, a new system emerged. The Covenant would be led by a council, but this council would be chosen by all people, not just the powerful. Decisions would be made openly. Knowledge would be shared freely, and most importantly, the dragons would serve as guardians and teachers, not rulers. Ji-won was chosen as the first speaker of the Covenant. She did not want the position. She was a scientist, not a politician. But Ryung convinced her. The galaxy needs someone who remembers what it was like to be powerless, Ryung told her. Someone who chose truth over safety. That is you, so Ji-won became speaker with Ryung always beside her. Together they began the work of healing a galaxy that had been broken for so long. Taeyang took charge of Covenant security. He trained new forces that included all species, teaching them to work together. The old council military had been about conquest and control. Taeyang's forces were about protection and cooperation. It was a hard transition, but necessary. Hye-jin became the director of dragon studies. More eggs were still being found, and each one needed careful awakening. She traveled across the galaxy, teaching others how to safely hatch dragon eggs and form healthy bonds. With her went Bo-Ra and Song, the silver dragon, who had become famous for their gentle approach to frightened hatchlings. Professor Min-seok and his gold dragon opened the first Precursor Knowledge Institute. With dragon help, they decoded ancient technology and translated it into forms that all species could understand and use. Medical advances that saved billions of lives. Energy systems that were clean and endless. Agricultural techniques that could feed entire worlds. Commander Junho led the Dragon Riders, but they were no longer just soldiers. They became explorers, peacekeepers, and rescue workers. When a star began to fail, Dragon Riders flew into the heart of it and stabilized it using precursor knowledge. When a plague broke out, Dragon Riders delivered medicine faster than any ship. They were heroes not because they fought, but because they helped. Kyung-soo and Daeun continued smuggling, but now they smuggled knowledge to places the Council remnants tried to keep isolated. There were still Council loyalists who refused to accept the new order. They hid in remote systems trying to preserve the old ways. Kyung-soo made sure information reached even these isolated places, slowly changing hearts and minds. Empress Haewon took her separatist fleet and transformed it into the Covenant's exploration force. She led missions to unknown regions of space, finding lost colonies and making contact with species that had never known the Council existed. With dragons to guide them, they discovered wonders that had been lost for millennia. But the most important change happened quietly, in millions of small moments across the galaxy. On a Council core world, a young alien who had been taught to hate humans met a human trader. They shared a meal. They found they had similar hopes and fears. They became friends. On a human colony, a child bonded with a small dragon that had just hatched. Together, they learned about the universe, the child teaching the dragon about humanity's creativity, the dragon teaching the child about the precursor's wisdom. On Earth, in a museum, children stood before a display showing the first moment Ji-won had met Ryung. The video showed the dragon hatching, the moment of connection, the beginning of everything that followed. The children asked their parents what it felt like to bond with a dragon. The parents did not know, but they hoped someday their children might find out. 2 years after the war ended, Ji-won stood once again on the platform orbiting Earth. This time she was not alone. Thousands of people and aliens had gathered for a ceremony. Today was the day they would do something unprecedented. They were going to create the first truly mixed species dragon bond. A young alien named Vek-Lani stood nervously before an egg. She was from the same species as Ambassador Vekthara, one of the insectoid people who had waged war against the precursors. For 2 years, Vek-Lani had worked to help humans and dragons, trying to make up for her species' historical crimes. The egg before her was one of the last to be found. It had been damaged in the ancient war, and no one knew if the dragon inside had survived. But Vek-Lani had asked to try awakening it. She said her species owed a debt to the dragons that could never be repaid, but they could start by trying. Ji-won watched as Vek-Lani carefully applied heat and energy to the egg. The techniques were the same ones Ji-won had used years ago on Ryung's egg. But the emotion was different. Vek-Lani was crying as she worked, whispering apologies in her own language. The egg cracked. Everyone held their breath. A dragon emerged, silver-like song, but with patterns of blue across its scales. It was small and weak, damaged by its long imprisonment. It looked at Vek-Lani with eyes that were ancient and sad. Vek-Lani knelt down and held out her hand just as Bora had done with Song. "I am sorry," she said. "My ancestors did terrible things. I cannot fix that. But I want to help build something better. Will you let me try?" The dragon looked at her for a long moment. Then it stepped forward and touched its nose to Vek-Lani's hand. Light flashed. When it faded, both dragon and alien were crying. Through the mental connection that now linked all bonded pairs, Ji-won felt what passed between them. Grief for the past, hope for the future, and most importantly, forgiveness. The crowd erupted in cheers. Ryung roared, a sound of pure joy that echoed across the solar system. Every dragon in the galaxy felt it and added their voices. For the first time since the ancient war, a dragon had bonded with one of the species that had killed the precursors. It was not justice. Nothing could truly repay that crime, but it was healing. And healing was a start. That evening, Ji-won sat in her quarters with Ryung's great head resting beside her. Through the window, she could see Earth turning slowly below, peaceful and safe. "Do you think we did the right thing?" she asked Ryung. "Waking all the dragons, starting this war, changing everything?" Ryung's response was gentle but firm. "You did not start the war. You ended one that had been going on for 50,000 years. You chose truth when it would have been easier to hide. That is always the right choice. But so many died. So many suffered. They would have died and suffered anyway, under the Council's rule. You gave them a chance to die free and to build something better for their children. That is not a small thing. Ji-won leaned against Ryung's scales, drawing comfort from the warmth. What happens next? We have fixed the dead zones, shared the precursor knowledge, built a new government. What is left to do? Ryung's mental voice held amusement. Everything. The galaxy is vast. There are species we have not met yet, problems we have not solved, knowledge we have not discovered. We have only just begun. That sounds exhausting, Ji-won said with a smile. Then rest. Tomorrow we begin again. But tonight, rest. Ji-won did rest, for the first time in years without fear of council assassins or war or impossible choices. She rested, knowing that the galaxy was changing, slowly but surely, into something better. Across the galaxy, others rested too. Soldiers who no longer had to fight. Scientists who could finally research freely. Children who would grow up in a galaxy where all species were equal. And dragons, dozens of them now, who no longer had to hide but could fly openly under the stars. Teachers and guardians once more. It was not perfect. There were still problems, still conflicts, still people who longed for the old ways. Building a new civilization would take generations. But it was possible now in a way it had not been before. In a small colony on the edge of explored space, a mining crew found something buried under ancient ice. They called the local scientist immediately. She came with her bonded dragon, a young one barely larger than a horse. Together they carefully excavated what the miners had found. It was an egg. Not a dragon egg this time, but something else. Something from the precursors that no one had seen before. The scientist and her dragon looked at each other and smiled. There was still so much to discover. And somewhere in the deep unknown of space, in places no ship had ever reached, more eggs waited, more secrets slept. More wonders hid in the darkness, waiting for someone brave enough to find them. The Dragon Age had returned. And this time it would be different. This time all species would rise together toward a future written not by conquerors, but by partners. Ji-won had revived a frozen dragon egg. What hatched had indeed changed galactic history forever. But the change was not just in governments or technology or wars won and lost. The change was in the hearts of billions of beings who looked at each other and saw not aliens or enemies, but partners in building something greater than themselves. That was the true legacy of the dragons. Not power, not knowledge, but hope. And hope, as it turned out, was the most powerful force in the universe.